Good day, everybody. My name is Michaela Miller. I'm a social worker and working on it, in which today I will be discussing a scenario which was brought to my attention. In bringing this to your guys' attention as well and wanting to discuss possible situational things that we can work on to improve, as our organization being a large nonprofit organization. In that, I do want to address first and foremost, as social workers, there's many things in which are needed within our community in which we're not going to be able to provide for everybody, but doing the best that we can is what we can hope for. And this scenario, it brings up implementing a new policy, which is specifically providing housing assistance and case management only to those who have families with children, and one of the people in the family needs to be an adult who has a job. And again, complying with this order is recognizing that this policy is not coming from us or from our level, and it is coming from upper management personnel. And still, our job and our goal is to help people, and identifying that people and families, it can help. As much as we may not like or agree with this policy, it is something that if following, it can still help many people. This scenario can potentially lead to unjust discrimination, though, against childless individuals or other caregivers, creating unfair resources allocations and challenging parental anatomy when parents are having to choices are clashing with a child's needs, and complicating decision making by balancing the child's best interests against families' rights, and raising the question about who decides and what truly serves the child's long-term well-being versus immediate needs, in which many of this is going to be beneficial for those families that need these services, housing services, that fall into this criteria, but it will harm those of single adults or families without an employment history due to systematic barriers, whether it's disability discrimination or are dealing with chronic homelessness, to which, as many of this, because of that, it violates social justice in the NSAW Code of Ethics, because it is not equally opportunity available for those that need it, as well as it tells those who don't have kids, who don't have jobs, that their dignity and worth is not, they don't deserve assistance, which is wrong, because even though they don't have kids and even though they may not have a job, they still deserve dignity and worth and human connection. And this policy also limits the services of competency, because we're not providing our knowledge, our resources as we should to those that need it. Meaning we're not following our competency, which is against the NSAW Code of Ethics. Well, in facing this current challenge, one of the things that we could do is use an ethical decision-making model, specifically the Reamer's ethical decision-making model, which is identifying the ethical dilemma, which is the policy being put in place, serving only those with families with a working adult, and identify affected parties, which are those with families that don't work, couples, or chronically homeless people. And it does also affect those with families who do have a job. Um, and then we identify potential actions and consequences, whether that's rearranging the resources and how they are provided, and or it is focusing on upcoming or other people that are trying to get these services that are eligible in this nature, or if we're having to cut the services of those who were getting services before but don't meet this new criteria. And then from that, we'll identify the reasons and principles for each one, being rearranging the allocations, in which ensures that social justice, it's just us playing a game in a way of who gets what money, but everyone's eligible for it. It's just in different ways, in different amounts, most likely. And then the other thing is this also ensures that dignity and worth and human connection is still present. Um, or if we're having to cut out those who don't meet this new policy, that's when we may want to address this at a higher level in addressing that our organization may not be following the NSAW Code of Ethics. But there are 3 different options with the policy not being specific of where it's coming from. And then having those conversations and determining which is going to be the best option and decide and documenting, because if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So having these conversations with upper management is going to be needed, and we make sure we document it, whether it's having it in writing, having it in the email, having some form of communication in which identifies that we brought up these concerns. And then with everything else, we will monitor and evaluate as needed, because though it may work right now, it may not always work. So there may be other ways in which we can address those situations. And then understanding the responsibility of a social worker. In this situation, with the policy not being very clear or direct in how they want it implemented, I think is where we have options. In particular, if we do the redistributing the current funds to ensure everyone's eligible in different ways, it just come from different accounts. And because of that, in many aspects, I don't see this current issue that's been brought as a full-on ethical dilemma. Is it a dilemma? Definitely. But ethical one, I don't see it. Reason being is that it's something that's being set up and established in a manner that's outside of our control. It is being set up by upper management, and upper management's making that determination, not us. And while I may not agree with the new policy, I still want to help as many people as I can. And how can I do that is working with what I have and what I can control. And identifying and documenting either alternative ways that fall under more of the NASW Code of Ethics, and communicating my personal beliefs to the upper management, which is why we're here and having this conversation and addressing that there's different things happening in the world that we may not like, and it may impact many people, but there's not really much we can do, but we can control how we respond, and we can control what we do with that and do with the resources that we are able to get our hands on. So again, that's where I do not see this as an ethical dilemma, We just have to change how we approach and go through. And with redistributing, though, it can have an impact in allowing new clients to join, providing resources at different levels, and better level minimizing the impact on those that do not follow the new criteria. But it can also increase the workload on the agency and the organization, considering to help most considering that we are here to help as many people as we can. So focusing on that is going to be our best way. And this there's other options that are available if there are clear or more strict guidance on the new policy. So one thing we may want to do even before is get clear guidance and understanding if we can reallocate, or is it cut all and dry. If you don't fall under this new criteria, you don't get services at all. And it's something that needs to be addressed and discussed with those that are setting the new policy, which again is upper management, not us. So having it weigh on us and make us lose sleep may not be the best option, because again, we're here to help people to the best of our abilities. We're not making these decisions because at our level we would not be making these decisions, because it would hurt more people than help. And addressing the issue, which the biggest issue of this policy is how it's dictating the population that gets services and those that aren't able to. And that is something that if we document and communicate with upper management, we can go from there in solving this possible problem. At the end of the day, though, if we have to focus more on a specific group to ensure that people are still getting services and still getting help, that's what we'll do, because the point is to help as many people as we can. And if the financial aspect is being limited due to the grant, that's something that may need to be considered in having that discussion with the people that are providing the finances. Which is why, again, reallocating those that are already receiving these services that meet this new criteria may be our best and safest option in ensuring that those that are not eligible for this grant but still needing services are able to get the money from a different avenue. Again, I would address that the population will not be getting services are due to things that are outside their control. Addressing that these groups of people that are not able to meet the policy requirements is something that they may want to consider, because it can be discriminatory in their disabilities and different issues that they're facing personally. And in breaking these different things and not in this new policy, it is going to break the trust, not only within the organization of the people working it, but also within the community and the clients, and which can affect every aspect of, we may not have the organization for much longer because people would not come to turn to us or talk to us with not having that trust that they can get services or they can get help as needed, because they'll specifically identify that they're not able to. So having that conversation and identifying that this can affect a lot of people long term if we don't address this sooner rather than later, in which upper management needs to assist in communicating and determining the actions that are needed. With that, are there any questions, comments, or concerns? I'm here waiting for information. so that we can then collect all of our perspectives and take it up to upper management, which is the people who are determining this policy, not us. Thank you. Have a great day.